Hello and welcome back, or welcome to Version of Events. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Ellie, and this is News Roundup number 9. We're so close to 10, our first.
So close.
Yeah, our first, what's the word?
Milestone.
Thank you. News Roundup is where we take a dip into cases on our mind or in the news.
Yep, and this week's episode really is packed to the brim, so let's get started, shall we?
Yep, let's dive in. But this week, our first case is actually an update on Jax Gratton, who was the inspiration for our segment called Missing and Marginalised. Jess, do you want to tell us what we know so far?
Yeah. So we have a really sad update to bring you on Jax Gratton, from Denver, Colorado. Jax was found dead in an alleyway in Lakewood in Denver on Friday, June the 6th. Jax was a transgender woman and a hairstylist, as well as an activist for LGBTQ people and causes. She was found wearing the clothes she was last seen in, which suggests that she died on the day she went missing, which was April the 15th. A cause of death hasn't yet been released, but Denver police say her death is being treated as suspicious, and a statement from Justice for Jax described her death as a horrible act of hate and violence. Now, we don't want to speculate about what that means. We don't know if that means a direct act of violence to Jax, or if that means a more pernicious kind of violence, the societal and structural violence that kills vulnerable people every day. Sorry.
Oh, darling. I know, it's so sad. I was so hoping that a tip-off...
Wouldn't end like this.
I was so hoping that it was going to end well, and
Yeah.
it is just heartbreaking.
Yeah. Jax was the direct inspiration for us to start doing Missing and Marginalised. She was a trans woman, like me, who was happy, who loved her life, who went missing, and the media looked the other way while her family and the people who loved her shouted like hell to get the media to notice her. And we see the same more often with missing and murdered indigenous people, particularly women and girls. And there are people who go missing with mental health issues and substance abuse problems who are ignored. And we want to do what we can with our small voice to highlight the missing people who are being forgotten by society.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's part of being an ethical true crime podcast, or as ethical as we can be.
Definitely. Jax's mother, Sherry Lynn, we call her Mama C, wrote in her announcement of Jax's body being found, "There are no words strong enough for the grief we are feeling. The light she carried, the love she gave so freely, and the joy she brought into our lives have been taken from this world far too soon. She lit up so many lives just by being herself, unapologetically, fiercely, fully. I see her in every act of love and strength you've shown, and I wish peace, love, and protection for all of you. This has opened my eyes in ways that I can't ignore. It's not just about Jax, it's about all of you in the LGBTQIA+ community who face the world every day with courage, just wanting to live, love, and exist safely and equally. That should never be a fight, and yet it is."
Beautiful words and sad words, and
Babe, can you finish reading this for me?
Of course I can. Yeah, beautiful words from Jax's mum there. Now, if you happen to have any information about Jax's death, anything at all, absolutely anything, please call Denver Police on 720-913-2000. That's 720-913-2000. 2000. And we'll finish with some words from Jax. Make it known in a backward society that a voice like yours is what needs to be heard. They're wise words, indeed.
Yeah. Thank you for finishing that for me.
Not at all.
That was rough. But yeah.
Not at all.
I hope we see justice for Jax, whatever that looks like. If a crime has been committed, then we know what justice looks like. If it's such an example, again, of things that happen to trans vulnerable people because of what society puts us through, and Jax has relapsed or something like that has happened, justice looks like a wider societal change.
Yeah.
And I hope that we see that change, whatever has happened. But yeah.
Absolutely.
I hope Jax gets some justice.
Yeah, me too. We both have become quite invested in Jax's story, and we will continue to update you as we know more. But for now, I'm gonna move on to a school shooting, so another really sad event. But this one is taking us to Austria, and on Tuesday the 10th of June, students in a high school in Graz, Austria, were sitting in their classrooms when a 21-year-old Austrian man entered the school with a gun and shot dead 9 people before killing himself. 12 people were injured in Tuesday morning's violence, and 1 person died later of their injuries while in hospital. Police still don't know why the gunman, who happens to be a former student who didn't graduate, committed Austria's deadliest mass shooting in recent history. The secondary school, whose name I stand no chance at pronouncing, so I'm sorry about that, is in the northwest of Graz, close to its main train station. The first shot was fired at about 10 a.m. local time, which initially sparked confusion about what was happening. A 17-year-old student, who is known only by F by the press, gave this quote about that confusion. He said, "Was that a shot? That can't be true. Something must have fallen at the construction site across the street." One student told Die Presse that when the shots rang out, his teacher immediately locked the door to the classroom. Another student told the same paper that at first she believed the shots to be firecrackers, but then she heard screaming, so she and her friends ran. It's actually remarkable and lucky that only 9 died and 12 were injured, because a local resident named Astrid, who lives next door to the school, said that she heard 30 to 40 shots ring out, and her husband Franz called police. So this had the potential to be deadlier than it was.
Yeah. Wow.
So Franz told the press that they saw one pupil at the window as if they're about to jump out, but then they went back inside. So you can just imagine the fear in those classrooms. Later on, though, the couple saw that a group of students had managed to exit the ground floor of the school on the other side of the campus, and they gathered on the street. So, yeah, I mean, terrifying.
That's very scary, and it seems like it's quite often the case with these mass shootings that, as horrific as any number of deaths is, it can often come close to getting a lot worse, particularly in this situation with the pipe bomb plan.
Yeah.
So it's just a real tragedy, and
yeah,
it's very tragic that this keeps happening.
It is. It's really worrying that the violence and then this idea has kind of spread, and it's uncontrollable, unfortunately.
That's how it seems, yeah.
So the first emergency calls reached police at 10 a.m. exactly, with the first patrol police car arriving on the scene just 6 minutes later. Shortly after that, a Cobra tactical unit that handles attacks and hostage situations like this sort of thing arrived, and other specialist units arrived just after the Cobra unit arrived, and within 17 minutes the situation was contained. More than 300 police officers were deployed to control the situation and make it safe at the school. The victims included 9 students, 6 girls and 3 boys, and then 1 teacher who died of her injuries in hospital. It was reported that all were Austrian citizens except for 1 Polish citizen, and none of them have been named as yet by authorities. Though the BBC met 1 woman who went by the name Torres. She said that she knew of one of the victims who was just 17 at the time of his death.
Gosh.
She said that she'd known the family for a long time and knew that he attended that school. So she rang them to ask if everything was okay. And then at about midday, they let her know that unfortunately their son was one of the unlucky ones who lost his life in the shooting. She also said that what happened on Tuesday is terrible for the whole of Austria, and that the whole of Austria is in mourning. And the government did actually announce a 3-day period of mourning as well.
Yeah.
So it really rocked everybody. The other 11 people who were injured are out of danger, thank goodness. And while the shooter has not yet been named, we do know that he was an Austrian man from the wider Graz area who acted alone. He lived with his single mother, who is also Austrian, in the Graz Umibung district. I'm sorry that I just butchered that. His father is originally from Armenia and had not lived in the same house as his son since he separated from his son's mother. So the shooter did actually kill himself after he had inflicted hell upon the school. And in a statement that police made on Wednesday the 11th of June, they said they found a farewell letter and a farewell video, a non-functional pipe bomb, and abandoned plans for a pipe bomb attack during a search of the suspect's home. He also legally owned the guns used in the attack, a pistol and a shotgun. And again, as for why he did it, police say they're still investigating the motive for Tuesday's horrific attack. I thought it would be interesting to have a little look into Austria's gun laws, and discovered that Austria has one of the most heavily armed civilian populations, with an estimated 30 firearms per 100 persons, according to the Small Arms Survey, which is an independent research project. The law bans the owning of machine guns and pump-action guns, while revolvers, pistols, and semi-automatic weapons are allowed only with official authorization. Rifles and shotguns are allowed with a firearms license or a valid hunting license, or for members of a traditional shooting club. That said, school shootings are rare in Austria, so it's not likely that the school would have been prepared. There have been a few incidents over the years, but they've all involved far fewer casualties. However, Austria's most violent gun attack took place in Vienna by a convicted jihadist in November 2020. 4 were killed and 22 injured when he ran through the city centre opening fire. He was eventually shot down by police. So they're not used to this level of gun violence, which is a good thing. But, you know, that teacher who locked the door, he really was quick thinking in this situation.
Yeah, it sounds like that, along with the fact that the shooter didn't go ahead with the pipe bomb plan.
Yeah.
It sounds like that saved a lot of lives.
Yeah, definitely did. It definitely saved a lot of lives that he didn't go ahead with that for whatever reason. We can be thankful that he didn't do that. And that's what we know so far about the Austrian school shooting in Graz. And I got an alert on my phone when the news hit, and I just remember thinking, oh my God, not another one.
Yeah, that's what it is every time. Not again, not again.
Yeah. Let's move on to this week's Missing and Marginalised.
Yeah, and both the cases we're looking at today are indigenous people from Minnesota. Peter Martin has been missing since March 8, 2024. He was last known to be on the Fond du Lac reservation in the Marnomen neighborhood of Cloquet, Minnesota. He was 31 when he went missing. He's 33 now. He has brown hair and brown eyes. He's 5'10" and he weighs around 165 pounds. He is a member of the Fond du Lac band of Lake Superior Chippewa people. Peter has a number of tattoos along his arms and his chest. On his upper right, most notably, has a cross with some writing. He also struggles with substance abuse issues. If you have any information about Peter's disappearance, please call Fond du Lac Police Department on 218-878-8040. That's 218-878-8040. Or St. Louis County Dispatch on 218-749-6100. That's 218-749-6100.
The next person that we're covering is Sheila St. Clair. Sheila St. Clair was last seen on August 20th, 2015 in Duluth, Minnesota. She was 48 when she went missing, and she's 58 now. She's indigenous, has brown hair and brown eyes. She's 5'4" and weighs 115 pounds. She has a tattoo of an eagle on her right arm and may also be using the last name Jackson. She has a bad right foot and may walk with a limp. Sheila was believed to be travelling with the White Earth Reservation in northern Minnesota, but she also may have been travelling to the Red Cliff Reservation in Wisconsin. She did not arrive at either destination. If you have any information about Sheila's disappearance, please call Duluth Police Department on 218-730-5050. That's 218-730-5050. Okay, and moving on, Jess is going to talk to us about a case that's gotten under her skin a bit. It's Jared Leto.
Yeah, it really has. The actor and lead singer of 30 Seconds to Mars, Jared Leto, has been accused of sexual misconduct by 9 women, several of whom were underage when they claimed these incidents took place. And to many people, many people, myself included, this feels like about the 10th time Leto has been accused publicly of similar behaviour. But on this occasion, it does seem like the media more widely are taking some notice. So the original report, most recent original report, was in the magazine Airmail. And this has been picked up by the mainstream media. And while Leto's denied the allegations again, they describe a consistent pattern of behaviour, alleged behaviour, which has been discussed on the internet for over 20 years, but has also been reported in the mainstream media consistently over a number of years. And this began with a New York Post gossip report, a little gossip column, and the article back in 2005, and the article in the Post began with Jared Leto likes them young.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and it wasn't subtle. The headline was Leto is a team player.
Oh.
So it's been described since being reported most recently. A number of people have said this is an open secret. This has been an open secret for a long time. And obviously, again, Leto denies the allegations, but it's difficult to look past the sheer number of people who have reported the same sort of behaviours.
Yeah, I feel like that many women can't be crying wolf. Like, it feels unlikely.
It really, it does. In their article, The Cult of Leto, Airmail detailed the allegations from 9 women, some of whom went on the record with their full names. So former model Laura LaRue says she was 16 when Leto asked for her phone number, despite knowing her age, invited her to his house, and then walked around naked in front of her. And she says that she remembered questioning, maybe this is just what adult men do. And for the avoidance of doubt for anyone who's listening, that's not what adult men do unless they're predators.
No, indeed.
Next bit, it does get a little bit graphic in the next little bit. So if you don't want to hear that, skip forward probably a couple of minutes. Another woman says Leto began speaking inappropriately to her when she was underage, asking things like, do any of the little boys you hang out with fuck you? When she turned 18, she says she was at his home when he suddenly pulled his penis out and started masturbating. Then he walked over, grabbed my hand, and put it on him. He leaned in and said, I want you to spit on it. Ugh.
Wow. Yeah. Ugh. It's just the beginning of it. It's yeah, absolutely.
It makes my skin crawl. The DJ and music producer Ali Teals publicly accused Leto in 2012, saying on her Instagram story, you're not really in LA until Jared Leto tries to force himself on you backstage. I mean, just stop right there. The fact that these allegations or alleged experiences appear to be so common that Ali Teals just says it's like a rite of passage. This is what happens if you're a young woman in LA.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like the American version of Jimmy Savile, where it was all hidden out in the open.
Yeah, it's hiding in plain sight. Teals also said, I was assaulted and traumatized by this creep when I was 17. He knew my age and didn't care. What he did was predatory, terrifying, and unacceptable. Jared Leto was a creep then and still a creep now. He's Hollywood's most persistent predator.
Wow.
That's
the title.
Yeah. I mentioned that the Airmail article was entitled The Cult of Leto, and that's an interesting title given that there have been claims from some observers that an event organised by Leto's band, 30 Seconds to Mars, called Camp Mars, and later Mars Island, is more of a cult than a musical event. And it does look very strange when there are people all dressed in white following around a bearded, long-haired Leto, looking like he's trying to emulate Jesus Christ. They're following him around. It does appear to be a cult, and when a band is describing it themselves as a spiritual retreat, it's very strange. It's all very...
It's not normal.
It's not... This is not a normal band. That's not what people normally do. There are a lot of bands who I really like, but if their lead singers were saying, put on a robe and follow me around this island that you've paid $5,000 to come to, I would be concerned about that.
Yeah, rightly so.
So, yeah, we are doing a deep dive on Leto and other members of his band 30 Seconds to Mars, including his brother Shannon Leto. So we'll leave more on it till then. Obviously, again, he does deny all the allegations and no charges have yet been filed.
Well, it doesn't sound like it will be long until they are. But we'll see.
Well, yeah, we'll see. It certainly seems like law enforcement should be looking at this very closely. So that's one case we're doing a deep dive on. Ellie's also been doing a deep dive into the case of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrant from Utah.
I have indeed. This case has gotten under my skin. I've been following it for years now, and it's kind of gone under the radar in the true crime world, which I find a bit interesting, because this is really a lesson in a micro cult. So I will tell you some of the story today, but I am indeed writing a deep dive. So allow me to introduce you to Ruby Franke, YouTube mom, intense daily family vlogger in which her 6 children became employees of 8 Passengers LLC. At first, Ruby started vlogging her family to show everybody what a happy Mormon family looks like in Utah, because they are part of the Church of the Latter-day Saints. And Ruby actually met her husband Kevin when she was just 18 and an accounting major in college. They were engaged and married within a matter of 3 months, and Ruby was ready to begin her ultimate goal, becoming a mother. It wasn't until she had 6 children, of whom we're only going to name the eldest 2 because they're adults and they have chosen to speak out publicly about what they've endured and what happened when Ruby met Jodi Hildebrant. So, known for her strict style, Ruby relished in the positive comments that she was receiving on her parenting and lifestyle videos. Soon the brand deals came rolling in like the tide, and at one point later on, Ruby admits that she was earning millions of dollars. But her time riding at the top of the wave of support and fame ended up being relatively short.
She's earning millions of dollars from these YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's doing brand deals. She's getting millions of views per video. So her AdSense is adding up, and she replaces Kevin as the family breadwinner, absolutely.
Wow.
And once that money came rolling in, things begin to change, because the vlog now meant they could afford a larger house. It meant trips to Disney World and Hawaii, and so the kids had to perform. The vlog was no longer about capturing the simple joy of a family being together. It became planned out and thought through, and if anyone said anything interesting, funny, or had a dramatic event happen in their life, then it all had to be reenacted for the vlog, from simple jokes to the oldest daughter, Sherry, being old enough for a bra. It happened, it appeared on their channel. Privacy was a distant memory by now.
Making a video to announce that Sherry's old enough for a bra is weird.
Not only did they announce that she was old enough for a bra, but she was filmed going bra shopping with her mother.
See, no, absolutely not. That is... I mean, I know it gets a lot worse, but
yeah,
that's weird.
It's the beginning of abuse, in my opinion. And Kevin and Ruby, they kind of turn from being these holy, loving parents to being snappy and demanding parents, reminding their children that it was time to work. Ruby began to spank the kids, not just with her hands, but with a belt. In the Disney and Hulu documentary on the case, Shari actually recalls having to get her brother toilet paper to tend his bloody nose. But all of this would stay behind the scenes for quite a while. The topple began when the internet found out that Ruby and Kevin had prevented Chad from sleeping in his own bed for 7 months. They left him sleeping on a beanbag in the basement. And do you want to know why they stopped him sleeping in a bed for 7 months?
Oh no,
Because
why?
he played a prank on his little brother. He told him that they were going to Disney and he needed to wake up and pack his suitcase. And so he did. And Chad got 7 months on the beanbag.
That's... wow.
Yeah. So that kind of begins the real worry that, you know, the punishments that they're dealing out, they're not really paired well. They're extreme punishments.
Yeah, that's not just disproportionate. It's got nothing to do with what he did.
Absolutely.
It's just...
But then the video comes in which she describes her youngest daughter, who was only 5 years old at the time, had forgotten to pack her lunch for school. Ruby, therefore, receives a text from her daughter's teacher asking her if she can pack a lunch and bring it to the school. Ruby refused to pack her 5-year-old a lunch, stating the natural consequence is that she will need to be hungry, before adding, I hope no one steps in to give her a lunch.
Right. A child forgetting their lunch for school is normal.
Yeah, all kids do it. Yeah.
I know I forgot my lunch at school. I know my child has forgotten their lunch at school. This is a thing that happens.
Yeah, it's
Goodness
a normal
me.
parenting event, and she actually said that she knows that it makes her teacher uncomfortable. Well, of course it does. You're starving a child for no reason whatsoever.
I mean, that's a serious safeguarding concern. Just right there.
Absolutely. During Chad's 7 months on the beanbag, and after he'd been expelled from school for general misbehaviour, as he'd admittedly reached the point of just generally not liking being told what to do, because that's all his life was at home.
Yeah.
Ruby met Jodi for the first time, and Jodi became Chad's counsellor. And this was the first time that the concept of living in truth or living in distortion was introduced to the Franke family home. As for Ruby and their Channel 8 passengers and YouTube, Ruby didn't know what to do, and instead of apologising for her actions, she kind of doubled down, and she felt that they were the victims of cancel culture. But the public had spoken. The brand deals rolled back out, and they lost a ton of their income. Now, it's rare that I think cancel culture makes a difference, but this time it was for the best, because the internet as a whole had spotted Ruby's strict parenting crossing the line into abusive parenting.
Yeah, and cancel culture, I mean, there's a difference between someone said some words that you didn't like, and someone abusing their kids.
Yeah.
And by the way, even in the first situation, it's fine to just stop watching someone because you don't like what they're saying. That's okay. That's your consumer choice. This isn't cancel culture. This is, please stop abusing your children. This is crazy.
Yeah, it absolutely is. The videos kept going up, but the views weren't what they once were. And as time passed, Jodi founded Connections, and Ruby was intrigued by this. Connections was a counselling service, essentially. Ruby then trained to work under Jodi as her sidekick taking online classes and speaking to groups of 20 women at a time about the idea of truth and distortion. Ruby even encouraged Kevin to join the men's group, where Jodi held him up as a good example to the other men in the group of what a good man looks like. And this really solidified Jodi into the Franke family. Now, Jodi and Ruby, they formed a bond unlike anything the Franke family had ever seen. And she used that bond and world happenings. By now, it's 2020. There's the COVID-19 pandemic. There's major natural disasters going on around the world. And Jodi convinces Ruby, etc., that this is the beginning of the end of the world and that they needed to prep to survive. Not only did they believe that, they then believed that Jodi was being possessed by the devil during fits. And as such, Ruby insisted that Jodi move in with them immediately. Now, remember that by now, Jodi is a therapist to Chad, and she's also now therapizing Ruby and Kevin. So not only is this wrong on a normal level, but on a professional, ethical level, it's deplorable.
So, Jodi started saying that she was being possessed by the devil.
Yeah.
And the response was to move her in with them.
Yeah. So there was footage in the documentary, and she's in like this weird trance state with her eyes closed and saying things like she's mine. And she gave it a good performance, I have to admit, but they believed it. That's the thing, is they were believing this.
Yeah.
So Jodi, in really kind of starting to isolate Ruby, she manipulates Ruby into asking her husband to leave and to have zero contact with the family. Then she manipulates her into asking Chad to leave and having zero contact with the family. And Shari, who by now is in college, receives a text from her mother disowning her.
Wow.
So Shari was the one who was shouting, "Hey, this is wrong, this is wrong." She discovered that her Jodi's license had actually been suspended at one point, and that she didn't have the greatest reputation after all. But we'll get into that in the deep dive. By that point, that left Ruby and the 4 youngest children. So Ruby just starts leaving the 4 kids home alone. Neighbours report seeing their little faces in the window, but nothing was ever done. Police were called, but they said they couldn't do anything if nobody opened the door, and nobody opened the door. CPS were called, but they said unless someone had seen physical violence, signs of physical violence, then there was nothing they could do.
Wow.
At some point, Ruby made the decision to take the youngest 2 and drive them to St. George, Utah, to Jodi's home. So the middle 2 we don't really know much of what happened to the middle 2. But the youngest 2 end up in St. George, Utah. And Jodi's home is like basically a compound in the middle of the desert. It has 4 levels and a basement. It's massive. While those 2 children were there, it was 1 boy and 1 girl, they were tortured. They were made to stand in the glaring Utah heat without water. They were tied down to weights. Ruby even shaved her daughter's head as a punishment at one point, and she actually kept a detailed log of everything that she did to those children, because she believed that they were living in distortion, and possessed.
She kept a log of what she was doing.
Yeah. She wrote down her crimes.
Wow.
This went on for months until one day the boy, who was 12 at the time, managed to escape through a window, and he went begging for food and water to the nearest neighbours, who weren't close. Like I said, Jodi had a lot of land, and the neighbours, they aren't particularly close together. And he also begged to be taken to the nearest police station. He even said to the couple that were his saviours that he was the bad one. But police were called, as well as paramedics. He had wounds around his wrists and ankles from where rope had cut in, where he'd been restrained. And those wounds had been covered in a mix of cayenne pepper and honey. He still had duct tape hanging off of him while he was ringing people's doorbells, begging for food and water.
Wow.
Because of this, finally, Ruby and Jodi were arrested, and each were charged with 6 offences of felony child abuse. They both pled guilty, and so 2 of the charges were dropped, but they each face up to 30 years in prison, though Jodi is apparently already trying to find ways to get out of prison ASAP. Now, this, believe it or not, is just the condensed version of the story, and I am writing that deep dive, but it is such a wild story. I just had to share. It's absolutely mental.
That's crazy.
I can't remember the whole name of the documentary, but it has the fall of Ruby Franke in it, and it's on Disney Plus in the UK, Hulu in the States, so if anybody wants to watch it, that's where you can find it. But yeah, it gets wilder. More things happen that I didn't have time to put into this. And once they're arrested, we really start to find out what had been going on in that compound.
Yeah.
For the months that those poor children were there. Yeah, the children are now safe.
Thank
I'd
God
just
for
like
that.
to add that. They are safe. They're with their father. I have thoughts on that, but he's not completely innocent in this whole saga, but he is now apparently doing his best to protect their privacy. So we have to hope he's realised what he was doing and is turning a leaf.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the story, so far, anyway. And next, we said that we would leave it alone for a while, but we've got an update on Loony Laurie Daybell.
I know. We thought we might get a week off, but since we last recorded, Laurie's been convicted yet again of conspiracy to murder Brandon Boudreaux. Brandon was her niece Melanie's husband. They are divorced for reasons which will become obvious, and Brandon is, as far as we know, the only person targeted by Laurie and Chad Daybell to have survived an attempt to kill them. During the trial, so I watched all of the Laurie's trial for conspiracy to murder Charles, her husband. I haven't watched all of this one because of another trial that's going on at the moment. You may have heard of Karen Reid, I don't know. So I didn't catch so much of this one, but I did see parts of it. And during this trial, Laurie's temper was coming out. She hates the fact that she can't get her own way, which makes me happy because she's in prison for the rest of her life, and I don't know much about prison, but I'm guessing you don't get your own way very much in there. And during the trial, she had to be removed from the courtroom at one point for yelling at the judge, just shouting at him, and she's like to him, "You don't have to yell at me," and he's like, "Take her out of the courtroom." Her in the Vallow trial, her performance was poor, but for a pro se defendant representing herself, I've seen worse. I've seen much worse. This trial she was a lot worse, and one of the main reasons that I thought this is terrible, she's so bad at this, is because she kept saying during her opening statement and while she was questioning people, and again during her closing statement, she kept talking about her good character and what a lovely person she is. And the problem with that is, if you vouch for your character, if you vouch for a defendant's character, evidence that would contradict their claims of good character becomes relevant. And she kept doing it, and the judge warned her, you are opening the door to your prior convictions, those convictions for murdering her kids, murdering Chad Daybell's wife, murdering her own husband Charles, opening the door for all of them to come in. Now, the judge didn't let them in the end, and I suspect, well, I can pretty much guarantee that's because he doesn't want this case reversed. No judge wants to be reversed on appeal, and I suspect he really, really, really doesn't want Loony Laurie back in his courtroom.
Yeah, I think he's had enough of her.
Yeah. Throughout the trial, she kept trying to get the judge to recuse himself, and it was just a disaster. And in a kind of, the proof of the pudding really was the jury deliberated on their verdict for a grand total of 25 minutes, which that sounds like just about long enough to fill in the verdict form, tick guilty, and come back. The evidence was really overwhelming, and the verdict was, I mean, you never know what a jury will do, but the verdict was kind of an inevitability. But something that did emerge during the trial, which is new. Laurie's niece, referred to as Melaniece sometimes, Melanie Polowski, who was Brandon's wife at the time, is rightly under investigation for her alleged role in the conspiracy.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, which is interesting. And obviously, well, not obviously, but they were, when they were married, she was Melanie Boudreau. And as I've said, she's now Melanie Polowski. I hope I'm saying that right. She's Melanie Polowski because she got married.
Oh, wow.
And if you're Mr. Polowski, if you're her husband, I mean, look over your shoulder, fella. That is really... that is worrying.
Yeah, I'd be worried. I'd be very worried, in fact. That's, yeah.
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 Since we last recorded, Laurie filed an appeal against the other Arizona conviction for conspiracy to murder her husband Charles Vallow, and that's separate from the already denied motion for a new trial. It's about 80 pages. I haven't read it yet, but a direct appeal against the murder conviction is an inevitability. Everyone is going to file one. And the media make a big deal of it. Oh, Laurie Daybell wasn't appealing her conviction. And as I say, I haven't read it. I suspect that, like most direct appeals, it will be turned down. But she will also, I'm sure, file a direct appeal against the Brandon Boudreau conviction.
Yeah. And
when she does that, I suppose we'll probably have to try and cover both of those. Maybe we'll try and do them at once. As of now, criminal proceedings against her, well, trials are done. She has the sentencing for both coming up next month, and we'll see what happens. It's an inevitability. It's a foregone conclusion what she'll get. She'll get another life sentence. So she will be serving 5 life sentences, 2 in Arizona and 3 in Idaho. I don't know where she will end up, in which state she will end up serving her time, but I think we can confidently say she is never getting out of prison. She will be in prison while her husband, Chad Daybell, is on death row and eventually gets executed.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
And hopefully, Melanie Podolsky. Hopefully this investigation goes somewhere and that will she'll be brought to trial. Right. So the last update that we've got for you today, Ellie, is on Madeleine McCann.
It is. Yeah, we left you last with an update about the searches going on near Praia de Luz, where Madeleine went missing back in May of 2007. Sadly, the searches ended after just 3 days, where 5 were initially planned. The searches included using specialist equipment to properly search through the scrubland and abandoned buildings included within the search. It's unlikely that we'll hear anything for several weeks through the official channels, but one officer told the BBC reporters that nothing significant was found. If this is true, what a heartbreaking end to the first search for Maddie in many, many years.
Yeah, that's really tragic. And I'm convinced that it is not a coincidence Christian Bruckner was staying so close to the apartment, to the complex when Madeleine went missing. I know there are always bad people around in any area. Bruckner is particularly dangerous. He was particularly close. The type of crime it fits more to me with an abduction than with parental involvement. I know a lot of people suspect them. I just don't think that theory works. And I was hoping that something would be found on Bruckner. I could be wrong. I'm happy. If I'm proven wrong, then fine. But I'd rather be wrong suspecting a man who we know is evil than suspecting her parents who are grieving.
Yeah, I mean, I'm split. I find it hard because I found some of the McCann's behaviour after Maddie went missing a bit strange. For instance, when they left the twins to go and visit the Pope, I'm not sure that if one of my kids went missing, I would have the guts to leave them with anybody, even if it was somebody I really trusted. I'm not sure I would be able to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that they killed their daughter. And the more evidence that I'm reading about Bruckner, the more I think it makes far more sense for him to be involved than it does her parents. And I don't know. I don't like what they did. I think they played a risky game, and unfortunately, Maddie paid the ultimate price.
Yeah.
And I just hope that they find her one day, because she deserves peace.
Yeah.
She deserves to be found. She deserves to be brought home and remembered lovingly, not abandoned somewhere. I just hope that she's found.
Yeah. We can definitely agree on that.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's all we've got for you this week, guys.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for listening again. If you can give us a 5-star review on wherever you listen to your podcast, that would be wonderful. Please get in touch with us for any cases that you would like us to look at. In Missing and Marginalised this week, both of those cases came from our friend Sophie, who is an indigenous woman in Minnesota. Thank you very much, Sophie. Miigwek. I'm sure I said that wrong.
Thank you, Sophie.
But yeah, Sophie knows Peter Martin. So if you can get into any missing person who's not getting attention in the media, any cases that are ongoing at the moment, get in touch with us. You can email us at versionofevents@gmail.com. You can go to our website, www.versionofevents.co.uk, or hit us up pretty much anywhere on social media at Version of Events. And yeah, we love hearing from you guys.
Hi all, Editing Ellie here. Just adding in a quick one to say that we are now on YouTube. So if you listen to podcasts on YouTube, or if you have YouTube Premium, you can find us on there. Anyway, I'm out. Yeah, we do. We really do. I love looking into cases that you suggest. It's a real adventure for me. I really enjoy it. And I also just want to send my love to Jax's family and friends.
Yeah.
And we are thinking of you, and we are so sorry for your loss.
Yeah, we're so sorry. But thank you for sharing Jax's story with us, and yeah, we love you.
Yeah. Right, guys, that's it for this week, and we will see you next time.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.